What will you do if your income ends tomorrow? Or if you lose your home, as many already have? Do you have enough money to survive through an economic depression? If you don't want to gamble with your future, then FreeToProsper.com can help you quickly end your debt problems, protect your property and possessions, and develop a personal strategy to get you through the hard times. Most importantly, you get to keep your money and not pay another cent to creditors. Our program is often superior to bankruptcy, consolidation, or settlement. Visit FreeToProsper.com to find out more. This is your real chance to act ahead, so don't delay. Your future may depend on it. Call 718-615-0123 to learn more. That's 718-615-0123. Or visit FreeToProsper.com today.
Join me, Joe Joseph, and my co-hosts, John King and A.C. Griffith, Thursdays and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Freedomlink Radio's Bridging the Gap on the Intel Hub Radio Network.
All right, folks, we're back. Our guest tonight, for those just joining us, is Michael Badnarik, the 2004 Libertarian presidential candidate. And, folks, immediately following this show at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, we have the Waterman Files. So stay tuned for Dr. John Waterman, and it's a great show. I highly recommend everybody stay tuned. Some very good information will be will be out, and I'm really looking forward to it. But before we get to the phone lines, I want to hand the mic over to John King for the King's Court.
Thank you, Joe. As some of you know, we here at the Freedom Link and the Intel Hub are starting a new station, a central hub of information not seen or heard in the mainstream media. In taking on such a task, you tend to meet a lot of people. I've had the opportunity to meet three of the finest men this Patriot movement has. They have a Patriots FM radio station that micro-broadcasts local here in my region. They broadcast on 88.3 FM Saturday evenings at 6 p.m. The name of the show is Braveheart, Pennsylvania, American Patriot Radio. They also can be heard over the web at www.libertytree.4M@Mary.G.com and just click the Live 365 player. The hosts over there are Daryl Civic, 62. He's retired. He attends and sells at local gun shows and used to own his own gun shop. Woke up in the 80s, started the Patriot radio station in February of 96 with several others. His co-host, Mike Wagner, is a 47-year-old over-the-road truck driver, woke up in 95 at a Mark Hornke presentation and joined the station in 98 and does gun shows with Daryl on the weekends. Writes short stories, and in his words, it gets the dogs out of his head to stop barking. And he tries to look at the world with his troubles with a sense of humor, and he brings that to the show. Patriot John, 43, is a machinist who woke up in 2004 after taking a good look at 9/11. Met Daryl and Mike in 2009 and started doing the show with them in early 2010, and now holds the rank of Command Sergeant Major in a local militia group. These guys made it their mission to spread the word and wake up the masses, and we're going to help. I'm proud to announce Braveheart, Pennsylvania, American Patriot Radio will be heard on our new network when we launch. We are getting a lot of brave and intelligent people who genuinely are concerned with the way this country is headed. So if CNN, Fox, and other media just isn't your cup of tea, count on us to do our very best to bring you what's important. Evil does indeed triumph when good men do nothing. Follow your heart and your judgment and press on. Prepare, people, self and family. Joe and Griff, back to you.
You know, there it is again, Griff, self and family.
I heard that.
Even John King says it. I mean, this is something else. Well, folks, we're going to take a phone call right now. Our first caller this evening is Brian from South Carolina, our good friend. Brian, go ahead. You're on the show.
Hey, Joe. Hey, AC. How you guys doing? I wanted to comment on the comments. I believe the guest was talking about at what point do people start starving to death. And during the Great Depression in South Carolina, I don't know the exact figure, but it was the tens of thousands, like 30,000 starved to death during the Great Depression. And that was the significance is this is during a time where everybody had farmland, most everybody farmed. You know what I'm saying? It's not like now where nobody has access to their own food. They're totally reliant on the grocery store and the quick stop. And so I think the starvation is going to play a role in it, like AC was talking about. But what's really interesting about it is when you start breaking it down, it all boils down, in my opinion, to the banks. If you go out, and let's use farming as an example, and you plant some wheat, you're going to want to get your money back out of it. So, if this guy ain't got nothing but dollars, you're going to take it because you want your money back. The guy you borrowed the money from or bought the seed from on credit, he wants his money back. But eventually it goes back to the bank. Somewhere there's a banker that wants his money back. And I think it's going to boil down to the banks. Are the banks going to survive, or are they going to close shop? Because during the Great Depression, you could argue that they shut our economy down. Because I know my grandfather and great-grandfather lost, it was over $100,000 in the 1930s when the bank collapsed. Mm-hmm. And somebody walked out the back door with a lot of cash because the money was in the bank, but they couldn't get it. They bolted the door, and that's it. It's gone. And everyone knows the story about Jekyll Island, and some say the Illuminati took our economy over after the Great Depression or during the Great Depression. I know Glenn Beck, he's real hard on FDR. He says he, was a communist and screwed our country all up, and Rush Limbaugh feels the same way. And looking back, it was somewhat of a coup d'etat because all kinds of social engineering and communist agendas were pushed through the United States, and into our economy, and they're with us right now. One of the programs is the farm subsidy program. That came out of FDR. And but I just thought I'd throw some thoughts into that. I think it's going to come down to basically they're looking for it's going to come down to the banks. They're looking to start a new currency, and I don't see nothing wrong with the dollar, but I think that they're going to a world currency. And when they make the move on the world currency, that's when the dollar's not going to be worth anything, and it's going to be a period where the banks don't loan. And it's going to be just like the 1930s all over again. If somebody wants to find out what's happening now, you look back to history to tell the future. Look back to the 1920s and 1930s and use that as an example. And as far as people starving to death, you definitely going to have people starving to death. You're going to have riots. You're going to have people trying to claw their way into your house to eat something. And eventually they'll turn on each other. Another good thing to look at is Africa. Even now, I think it's like 20% of the population eventually starves to death before they die of old age or disease. And that's a dog-eat-dog economy. You know what I'm saying? And currencies come, currencies go. And if it gets to that point here, it's going to be rough, and people do need to be prepared, and that they need things to provide for themselves. They also going to have a way to protect what they have. And anyhow, I just thought I'd throw that in there and see what you guys think of it.
Oh, Brian, always a good call, man, and I appreciate you. Calling in. Michael, what do you think? At what point did we go wrong? Where did the train kind of go off the tracks? Where would you say was that defining moment in our history where we deviated from the intentions of our founding fathers?
Probably it's a gradual process. It's like, when does a child become mature? I mean, it's not like the morning of their 18th birthday. It's a gradual process. But I would say that the turning point was with FDR when we, the people, fell asleep at the switch. We allowed the Federal Reserve to start printing our money in 1913, and then when we created the Great Depression, the first Great Depression was deliberately created we had FDR going, oh, my God, it's the government's job to take care of the people, which is not true. You can't find that in the Constitution anywhere. But, when you're unemployed and your children have no milk or food, it sure sounds good.
Sure.
And so we were willing to accept socialism in the United States as a way to, organize the country. But it's like selling your soul to the devil. It may, you may be really rich, while you're alive, but then when you die, and you go to hell, you go, wow, that was a really bad bargain. And it's the human nature aspect of this is short-term satisfaction versus long-term satisfaction. And that presumably is the difference between children and adults. Children want everything right now. They want that, immediate gratification. And they're not wise enough or mature enough to postpone immediate gratification now for something better in the future. Theoretically, adults will do that. Adults will save up money so they get a much better car. But under the circumstances of the Great Depression, everybody sold their liberty in exchange for government benefits. We became a slave to the government, which, sounded really good in 1933, but now it's, the time to pay the piper, and we've got the, $1 trillion bailout, all this, economic problems, and it's because our parents and grandparents fell for the concept of socialism. Socialism is evil.
And also back then, you think about it, and Griff, you can speak to this too. I mean, you were around when the Great Depression went down. I jest, Griff. I jest.
No, Joe. I've rode with Ben down in South Carolina. We rode all the way up to Yorktown in, I think it was 1781 when Cornwallis surrendered.
But I guess
that's okay. I had a pet pterodactyl when I was growing up.
I guess my thing is in the Great Depression, people had more of a survival instinct about them because the social safety nets were not in place. So they did have a sense of adaptability, I guess you could say, and also a sense of personal responsibility, because the responsibility fell upon each person to provide for themselves, whereas before it didn't. And there was also charity, of course, and it was the charity of those Americans that did have money or did have the means that kind of helped people through. But now we live in a day and age where 1 in 7, I think it is, 41 million people out of our population are on food stamps. And there is unemployment that's been extended time and time and time again. And there are all these social safety nets in place, and so many people have lost that ability to survive. So when you do have a depression-like event, and I think we're already in a depression because, you don't see bread lines, but that's been replaced by entitlement programs and social safety nets. So I think it's kind of avoiding the inevitable as far as actually seeing this really come to fruition. But at the same time, I think that when this does hit and the social safety nets are gone, it's going to be so much worse than it was before, where Brian was saying, you had, say, roughly 30,000 people that died of starvation. Well, now you have people, again, a lot more mouths to feed and a lot less people that know how to survive. And that's why I think the devastation is going to be so much greater. What do you think, Michael?
I agree completely. If you don't know how to swim, when the floodwater comes, you're going to drown. If you haven't prepared, if you don't have food stored up, as we've been saying, you and your family are not going to eat. And there may be people available to, help you out, but I would much rather have my own food than have to stand in a corner for hours hoping for somebody to give me a cheese sandwich.